Shalom, everybody. I'm coming to you with an impromptu chat about, surprisingly enough, R. Kelly and these sex allegations that are going on. We actually ended up talking about this. Why? Because you said you were on Facebook and you saw something.
Right. I saw a comment last night about this lady doing her personal private chat about R. Kelly, saying that R. Kelly slept with Aaliyah and her mom, and that I don't believe any of that is true, because why would R. Kelly sleep with Aaliyah and her mom at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. And another thing is, everybody keeps saying R. Kelly is guilty. My point of view, he may be, he may not be, but people are not looking at the bigger picture. R. Kelly only doing what was done to him. He was molested, so he only doing what was done to him, like peeing on these girls. Somebody must have peed on him. How this dude know about peeing on people? Where all this coming from? And then all of a sudden, why all of a sudden that out of all these years, R. Kelly is being targeted? I love R. Kelly music. I'm not gonna stop loving his music. I blame these kids. I blame their parents. But I was just quoted. I was just confronted about the ages. So I take the ages into consideration. But these young ladies that was 17 or 18, I don't feel no sympathy for them, because they were adults, young ladies. They knew what they were doing. These 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, I feel some type of way, because they followed him. He ain't gonna pick them out. They followed him. He didn't go pick nobody out. They followed him. These little girls had cell phones. They could have called home and told their mamas and daddies they was ready to go. They weren't locked up in no rooms. They could leave anytime they got ready. But yet they chose to stay. So I have a problem with this, R. Kelly being targeted like this.
Okay. Did you, when all this stuff first started with R. Kelly, do you remember when the first allegations started with Aaliyah originally, and the accusations with the girls at the high school? Do you remember any of that?
I remember the accusations with Aaliyah about him being married to her. Is that what you're talking about? At the age of 15 or 16. I remember that. Now, the girls at the high school, I don't remember anything about that.
Okay. So when you heard about that originally, when all this first surfaced, how did you feel about it then?
Funny you would say that, because I actually really thought that this was all a front. I really did. I thought it was a front. I thought it was a scam. I never imagined R. Kelly being married to Aaliyah.
Also, when you first heard it, you thought it was just some celebrity gossip,
That's
like
all, just some celebrity gossip.
entertainment tonight. I mean, not the Inquirer type of stuff.
I didn't think this was real. I did, and I still, in the back of my mind, don't think this is really real.
Now, did you follow the trial at all?
Nope.
So you don't know about Sparkle testifying and her parents and her coach testifying?
Nope.
So, I think that happened with a lot of people. I think a lot of people, we're busy. We don't have time to follow the news or follow the cases, and there are people who actually did. So, in light of that, if you heard the details, do you think that would change your perspective?
Of R. Kelly?
If you heard that?
I heard some of it. I never looked at it. Didn't want to look at it, because I didn't want it to change my value and my views about R. Kelly. I love him as an artist. All this other stuff that's going on, I have my own opinion about it.
Can you separate the artist from the personality?
That's going to be kind of hard for me, because as I look at him as an artist, I look at him as having a great personality as well, because I've met him in person, and I didn't pick up on that vibe of him being that type of person.
How long were you in his company?
About an hour.
And what did you guys do?
We talked, we laughed, we ate. I was in Chicago when I met him, and then when he came here to St. Louis, I met him here, and I didn't pick up on no sexual innuendo. How you pronounce it?
Innuendos, or what do you
right,
say?
innuendos.
Well, let me ask
I
you a
didn't
question.
pick up on
Have you
none of
ever met anybody that is a sexual predator?
Funny you would say that. My boyfriend, I didn't think he was a sexual predator until he raped me.
So you're saying the same thing basically that you said about R. Kelly then. He didn't give off any vibes. He didn't give off any...
He didn't give off no kind of vibes. When I say this was a gentleman to his heart, and one day I was at his house and he wanted to do things that boyfriends and girlfriends do, and I wasn't ready to do it with him. So what he did was he had a white Alaskan Husky dog. He trained his dog to attack. He told that dog to attack me if I didn't take off my clothes. And you talking about somebody was scared because this dog was looking at me like, I'm gonna tear you up if you don't take them clothes off for him.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
I had no choice but to take my clothes off. I mean, I was terrified. I was scared. And that's why I don't do dogs today. After that, I left this guy. I never went back. I never looked back.
How old were you?
I think I was 17.
How old was he?
I don't want to say his name out, but I think he was like maybe 25.
In hindsight, do you feel like that was too old for you, that you didn't have the social capabilities to deal with a man that old?
No, because we weren't cool. You know, I saw no indications of it going left field. You know, we've been together before. If I ain't want to get down, I ain't want to get down. But for some reason, that day, it was a mess. After that, I never communicated with him no more. Trust and believe me, my brothers knew something was wrong.
So you didn't even report it?
I didn't report it to the police.
Ever?
Ever.
Now,
but I told my brothers.
Can you talk about why you didn't? Because a lot of people like to criticize women for not coming forward.
Because I felt embarrassed, ashamed, and I felt like I was going to be talked about, and I felt like I was going to be judged, looked at differently. And I just didn't want the problem with my family. I didn't want none of that. I didn't want nobody to be like, well, she shouldn't have been with him.
She shouldn't have been there.
She shouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
she know better.
Yeah, we have a tendency to blame the victim. And I was telling someone else that very same thing, that if I were violated like that right now, I would really have a hard time coming forward, because my coworkers, because it's majority black, and you know how we do each other. And then my family, I don't want people looking at me when I go to family functions, and it's bad enough when you come to work every day, oh, she was raped, because that's how we treat each other.
That's exactly how we treat each other. And I just didn't want that on me. I didn't want nobody to know. I didn't even tell my parents. But my brothers knew.
So I'm gonna tie this back and just ask you, what do you think about this now? You think about what happened to you and how you had no suspicion that this guy was a predator. And the same thing you said about R. Kelly. Do you see how it could be the same?
Yeah, now that we talk about it, I do. I see how that could tie in. Because he don't give out vibes like that either. But I don't know what goes on behind R. Kelly's closed doors. I never in imagined years would imagine that R. Kelly would be this type of person. But like I stated, I feel for him. I feel for the young ladies, what he's done to them. And I hope you reach out and get some help. Will that stop me from loving his music? No. That's not going to change the way I feel about his music at all.
So you feel like, because he was a victim, now you got to know, as a victim yourself, you never went around and violated anybody.
But I'm not a man. And men don't know how to handle being victimized like women do.
So you think because he's a man, it made a difference?
Yes. We as women, we like to just want to wash that off of us. We want to wash that off. We want to close that door. We don't never want to look back at that situation.
Well, you know, they say his sister, she was violated as well. And then she turned around and violated them.
That's wild.
So
That's wild.
I think there is a lot of abuse, and I'll even say that I believe that our community tends to enable that behavior. We don't report our violators, and I will even say a lot of people, they get mad, but your grandmothers, your moms, and cousins, family
Aunts and
members
uncles.
support not these predators, because I even have a relative where everybody just said, and a lot of people, don't send them kids in there with him, don't make sure y'all stay away from such and such, because they knew
what he was doing.
Yeah.
I have the same thing in my family.
You do?
I have the same person
Why do
in
we
my
all
family.
have that relative?
But
And I
here's
had
the
a-
thing. When he got with mines,
Did you guys report him?
yes.
Good for you.
And I let the whole family know.
Did you get pushback from your family about reporting
Yes.
him? Now talk about that. What happened?
Because everybody don't want to believe that he could do such thing.
But the whole time you're saying don't send them kids in there. Y'all don't be alone with such and such.
But see, I had no clue. I had no idea that he was like this. I had no idea that this was going on until it hit the forefront. You know?
Did any other relatives come forward?
Yes.
But they wouldn't tell.
Somebody did tell. Somebody killed himself.
Can you say it a little louder so they can hear?
Somebody did tell. And somebody killed themselves.
In your family? I'm so sorry. So rather than they told and they couldn't deal with the backlash and they committed suicide. Oh my God. And I just want to say I'm sorry, and I really appreciate you coming forward to tell this story, because these stories need to be told, and it means a lot to me that you would share this with my audience.
They do need to be told. They need to be heard, because it's a lot of kids that have been abused by their family members and will not speak up today. But if you're listening to this and you have been abused by someone in your family, it's not too late to speak out, because you want to save your children from being abused by the next person.
And when we let this go and we don't report, these people are allowed to victimize multiple people over and over. You're talking about generations, like in my family, 4 generations moving through, and this predator is still sitting around. Well, in this particular situation, I won't go into too much detail. This predator has kind of been, something happened to him, so really bad, so he can't, he's fucked up. So, it ended up backfiring on him, but I know that's not a lot of cases.
Same predator in the family?
I think everybody has a predator like that in their family. It seems like, because every time I have a conversation like this with people, they always say, yeah, we got that family member. And I don't know if you remember, a comedian did the joke like that. He was talking about everybody got that one molesting relative. Don't y'all go in that bedroom back there with him? Because and I get too that another reason why some of us don't report our family members, because like your mom or your grandma, you love your son, you love your uncle, you don't want to see them go to jail, because we see what happens to black men in the hands of the prison system.
Right.
But at the same time, we cannot allow these predators to remain unleashed upon the community, because too many people are telling these stories. I can sit in the room.
It's time for it to come out.
It is. And I appreciate you taking the time to share with us.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love you, sis.
Love you too, sis.
So that really was an impromptu recording. And what made me record it was when we started talking, and the issue of R. Kelly came up, and she was saying R. Kelly didn't go to those girls. Those girls went looking for him. I was like, you know what? Before this goes any further, I need to record this. And thankfully, she was willing. And it really took me breaking it down for her when she said that the reason why she didn't think R. Kelly did those things was because she didn't get any predator vibes from him. And so when I brought it back to her about how she was violated by someone who didn't give off predator vibes, if I wish it had been video recorded, because you literally could see the light bulb go off in her head. And I think a lot of times that happens with a lot of us when we're victimized or we go through something. We can't see other people in the same light that we were in. Like, she literally couldn't see how those girls were her. And a lot of them were her age. And for me, when people were saying things like, I was talking to another coworker after I spoke with her, and he was saying that he didn't believe that R. Kelly did those things, especially when it came to the 18, 19, 20-year-old women, because they could have left at any time. They had free will. And I had to break it down for him. I was like, let's take R. Kelly off the table for a minute and understand people saying that they don't understand how other adults can be victimized. You say that as a person who is strong-willed. And, same way with a church, you're not going to allow a church or any other organization to bilk thousands of dollars out of you. But then you have to look on the other hand and look at people like Jermaine Grant, who had a whole congregation of people convinced that he was the Holy Ghost and gave him 20% of their income, not the 10, but 20. Then you have people like Jim Jones, who had people literally give him all their wealth, everything they owned, and went down to Guyana with him. You see what I'm saying? So these were adults. These were not children. So if these adults could be manipulated into giving up everything they owned and following people, and in the case of Jim Jones and David Koresh believing he was Jesus, and Ben Amin believing he was Jesus, and this nigga was a bus driver and wore glasses. Y'all thought he was Jesus? So you see what I'm saying? If adults can be manipulated into believing these things, you don't think it's conceivable that a 13, 14, even a 20-something-year-old woman, young woman, can't be convinced by a man who she literally idolized? His music, you listen to his music every night, you're going to all his concerts. Like, these people are their gods. I mean, you think about all the energy at those concerts. Look at how people were passing out and crying during those Michael Jackson concerts and even some of these other celebrity concerts. These people are their gods, and I'm not saying that's right, but this is where their mentality is. We have to pay attention to the people and what's going on with them, not what we think or not what we wouldn't do, because we're not them. Okay? So I think we have to be careful and stop being so quick to dismiss other people, because all of us know people who are very weak-minded and easily led. And the only reason why you don't fuck them over, manipulate, or use them is because you have a set of morals and values. You have a code of ethics that prevents you from doing that. But you also know a lot of other people who came along and said, if you see a sucker, lick them. And they've done it. They've used people who you know who are weak-minded repeatedly over and over again. And you see how these adults are easily manipulated and used and taken advantage of. So it shouldn't be a far stretch for you to understand that it can easily happen to a younger person. And that's all I have to say about that. And we'll be doing more of these impromptu chats, and I'm going to be doing, one-on-one conversations with people, because after all, this is about real talk with real people. I'll talk to you guys later. Shalom.